What's up, everybody? Dr. Trevor Wilkins here. I'm known as the Angry Viking Therapist. And if you're new to my channel, I'm a 15-year law enforcement veteran that's now a therapist, licensed therapist that treats things like PTSD, high-risk careers for lots of different populations. But I also focus a lot on public safety and military because of my background. That's what I tend to attract. So I wanted to tell you some more about EMDR. I did a video last week about the things that it would help with. I want to tell you some things that happen with things like PTSD that EMDR is going to help with. One of those is that hypervigilance, that state that we stay in, and obviously we need it for critical events, but that ongoing, over-the-top hypervigilance that consistently causes us problems in our own life. Whether you're in a crowd, whether you're in your own home trying to relax, whether you're driving, vigilance is extremely important. Many of you in public safety or military have been exposed to things like condition white, condition yellow, and very rarely are we in condition white, that sheeple as we like to call it. But staying in yellow can be exhausting. Maybe there's times that you should be in white, maybe being at home while still being a little bit vigilant. Again, vigilance isn't the problem. It's that hypervigilance. It's staying in that code red in times where you know you're probably physically pretty safe as long as you're continuously watching out for yourself. The problem with chronic traumatic events, or even acute traumatic events, those one-time big ones or the continuous chronic stress that you deal with public safety, is that hypervigilance continues to grow. We're going to talk some other videos about what happens with the amygdala and the hippocampus, the limbic system, the kind of reptilian parts of the brain as well, what gets shut off like the prefrontal cortex. Those are all really important things, but this one I want to focus on what that EMDR will help change. It's not the only modality that I use, but it helps save my life, save the life of many other people who either come to my office or contact me online. So back to that hypervigilance. It's not doing us any good to stay there on a regular basis. I thought it was. I thought as long as I continued to stay hypervigilant, hyper-aware, always in that kind of Jason Bourne mentality, right, that we all want to be, us guys, I thought that it would continue to serve me. The problem was it was causing problems with my stress levels. It was causing problems with the fact that I didn't enjoy anything anymore. It was becoming all business and all emergencies. And then it started to affect my family. Some of that hypervigilance wasn't just the anger, although that's a part of it, but some of that hypervigilance was causing my family to have to walk around eggshells, concerned to, set me off in their own words, or what was going to make me jumpy. Now, I don't subscribe to the fact that, should some kid wake me up in the middle of the night, I'd grab my gun and start shooting, or, nothing to that effect. But it definitely would cause me to stay hypervigilance when things would trigger me, right? When things would happen, maybe a loud noise outside, maybe a loud noise in the house, maybe a car cutting me off, maybe it looking like somebody's following me. Any kind of critical event or any kind of triggering of a critical event that would make that hypervigilance really kick up in me. It would take hours to come off of that if I came off it at all for that day. What EMDR helps with is that overreaction to those triggers. Those triggers are coming from somewhere. Obviously, lots of us don't like to be in crowded places, or maybe places where we don't feel like an exit is nearby, or we don't have control of an area. But the hypervigilance was really causing me that problem. That's an overreaction, an over-emotion. Again, like I said before, vigilance is fine. It's the hypervigilance that's going to be physically exhausting, mentally exhausting, not just to you, but to everybody else. So EMDR is going to deal with finding those triggers. We're going to spend some time doing some flow back, spend some time doing some history taking, kind of figure out where did all this get started. Your brain learned this somewhere in order to keep you safe. An additional thing that, whether it be PTSD or, severe anxiety or acute anxiety from critical events, is what I call the isolation chamber. That you can even be one in a place with people you love and feel completely alone and isolated. Or you wanted to isolate yourself, causing yourself that isolation chamber. I was really good at it. Now, I've never been a huge people person. The fact that I do social media and put it out there is kind of crazy to me, honestly, even when I think about it to this day, even though I've been doing it prolifically for a little while. But I would purposefully isolate myself. Okay, so maybe I didn't have 10 million friends. I kept my inner circle pretty close. How's that doing for your family? How's that doing for the people that want to be around you? How's that doing for the people that you know when you're feeling down and at your worst and lonely, that you won't even call your backup because you're isolating yourself and you feel like you have to stay away from everybody else. You have to stay the angry guy. You have to stay the vigilant or the hypervigilant one, isolating yourself. One, that isolation, talking about staying away from family members, staying away from other people. You could even be in a place where you knew where people would love you and you still felt very alone. And then you purposefully isolated myself. I was very good at this one, despite having a family, despite having a loving family and people that wanted to help me. I just isolated myself. I felt like everybody thought I was the angry guy. Everybody thought I was the over-the-top, hypervigilant guy. So screw it. I'll just be by myself. I'll just go on about myself, doing my own thing, being the angry guy maybe, or being the hypervigilant guy and isolating myself. Let's be honest. It was lonely as hell towards the end. And now maybe you haven't gotten that far yet. Maybe you think the isolation's still serving you. But people will ask me all the time if I have memories of law enforcement that are good. And I do. I had a lot of fun in those 15 years. What I remember first is those last 2 years sitting in the median, just pissed at everybody, completely isolating myself from, didn't want to be around civilians, coworkers, bosses, my own family. I was pushing them away. I was completely isolating myself. And I would just sit there and beg for a stolen car to go by, like 120 miles an hour, somebody shooting an AK-47 out the window. Not because I wanted to be a hero, but because I'd go take care of that. There was no emotion to that. I'd chase them, maybe have to pit them, take whatever action had to be at the end, whether it be arrest or more. But there was no emotion to that. The isolation, sitting in that car by myself, not wanting to pull out on anything, not wanting to do anything, not wanting to take those calls, not wanting to be proactive at all, not wanting to go home, not wanting to deal with coworkers or supervisors or civilians especially. It was completely isolating. And I was doing that because I felt lesser than. I felt like I wasn't the person that I was supposed to be. So in order to cover that, I isolated myself and made myself angrier and made myself better than everybody else. Because that kept away from me that lesser feeling. That's one of the areas that EMDR is going to help with. It's not just memories. It's not just flashbacks like a lot of people think PTSD may be. There's a lot of symptoms that come along with it. We're going to continue to talk about it, especially over this month. That hypervigilance and that isolation, it's not serving us at all. Continue to isolate ourselves. And maybe right now, again, there was a time in my life where I thought that isolation and the hypervigilance was helping me. Let's be honest, folks. It's not. If you ever looked for any kind of help or looked to get better, you know damn good and well that it's killing you slowly. And I'm not talking about sitting around being a sad sack, all lonely, thinking nobody likes you. I'm talking about isolating yourself from everything. It's really cool in the movies, right? Our heroes are the CEI agents and the undercover folks and the hardworking cops and the ones that are heroes on TV. They just isolate themselves, stay away from everybody, always take care of business. It's a 2-hour movie, dude. It's a 2-hour movie. It's not real. I'm not saying you have to have 1,000 people around you to love on you. You have to be all happy all the time. But the isolation is eventually going to kill you. I see it every day in my office, on the people that reach out to me online. It's some of the areas that EMDR is going to help with. It's not just the triggering events. Those things like hypervigilance and isolation are coming from somewhere. Let's get to the root of where they're coming from. Let's stop the brain going to an emergency mode or protective mode about it all the time. Let you live your life without always being stuck in those ways. Now, this one alone is going to be part 2 of maybe a 2 or 3 part video where I want to tell you about the other things that it helps with. But these are 2 major ones that consistently affected my life and affects the life of the people that I work with on a regular basis. It's not serving you. Quit fooling yourself. If you figured this out yet, that it's not serving you, that even though it felt like at a time that maybe it was doing some good, like I thought so, it's a big crash coming. Those dark years are coming. I don't know what that looks like for you. I don't know if you're stuck there right now. But if you need to reach out for help, there's plenty of us that understand. It feels isolating. It feels like nobody else gets it. There's plenty of us that do. If I'm the right person, please come to my website, theangryvikingtherapist.com. Go to Instagram, Dr. Trevor Wilkins. Send me a direct message. I'll be glad to talk to you about it. I'm driven to do this. I wouldn't put up these videos as a non-very social person if I didn't think that people needed help. I will no longer suffer in silence or get better in silence because I see too many people, too many of my friends, too many of the people that are just like me suffering themselves. Won't do it.